Hi folks, Wooden Boat Dan here. Just wanted to give you a heads up. The podcast you're about to listen to was recorded several years ago, so some of the phone numbers, email addresses, website links, and time-sensitive information are no longer valid. Please keep that in mind as you listen. If you'd like to contact me, my email address is woodenboatdan@gmail.com. Thank you and enjoy the podcast. Welcome to Hooked on Wooden Boats Weekly Podcast Episode number 98. I am your host, Dan Matson, a.k.a. Wooden Boat Dan. If you can't do it, well, don't even attempt it. It's probably not possible unless you hire some experts to train you for several months. And this is the world's first podcast fully dedicated to celebrating the art, craft, history, tradition, and romance, don't forget the romance, of wooden vessels around the world. Welcome to the podcast today, folks. Great to have you on board. We have another fun adventure today in the wooden boat world. If you're not in the wooden boat game, you need to get in, by the way. Today's featured segment is with Marty Loken. Marty lives on Marrowstone Island near Port Townsend, and I hooked up with Marty at the Pocket Yacht Palooza, the Port Townsend Pocket Yacht Palooza, a week and a half ago. And we talked quite a bit about the Palooza and what's going on there and some other fun things that Marty is doing. I always enjoy connecting with Marty. He's very passionate about his wooden boats, probably almost as passionate as me. So we had a good time, so stick around for that interview. I think you're going to enjoy it. This past week, I've been working hard on my scamp, so I'll give you the scamp update here. I've got 105 hours into it, $3,995. This past week, I worked on it about 25 hours, which I always think I'm going to work 40 hours, but there's other things in life I'm doing also, so 24 is not bad. This past week was mainly spent, the majority of it, 80% or so, was spent installing cleats for the seats and the cockpit sole, also installing the deck and cabin beams and fiberglass sheathing the upper part of the mast trunk where it goes through the cabin top. And I actually went out and counted the number of cleats I've put on the boat so far as 45. And these are all, I'm using all Douglas fir, basically, vertical grain Douglas fir. They're 7/8 by 3/4, roughly. And so each one has to be obviously milled to the correct cross-section first, which I've done with my planer and my table saw. And then they have to be cut to length. Some of them have to be cut at an angle, depending upon where they're going on the boat. Then they have to be installed, of course. And what I've been doing is using clamps and my pin nailer to hold them in place while the epoxy cures in lieu of using screws, where I've got to drill the hole for the screw, countersink it, drive the screw, fill the hole, sand the hole, fill the hole again, sand the hole again. And the epoxy is strong enough where it doesn't need the mechanical fastener. So that's what I'm doing. I think in the long run that's going to save some time. So I installed 45 cleats this week and 4 deck and cabin beams. And I'm having a blast as usual. I probably have about 2 or 3 hours work left before I'll put the garboard on the boat. I want to make sure I've done as much to the interior of the boat as I can before I install the garboard, because once I start installing the planking, then it's going to be harder to access the interior of the boat because the sides on the scamp are pretty tall. So that's where I'm at. I'm having a blast as usual. And you can check out my updates on my website if you go to hookedonwoodenboats.com/scamp, or just go to my homepage, hookedonwoodenboats.com, click on the scamp menu at the top, and you can get an update with pictures on what I've worked on this past week. I'm keeping track of my cost and time there, and then I'm putting down some scamp hacks, as I call them, some ideas to make the build easier. So this is fun stuff, folks. I'm having a blast as usual. The other thing I've been working on is my ebook, And the official title of the book is going to be called, if I can remember, Get in the Wooden Boat Game, A Guide for Building Your First Boat. It's got about 10 chapters. It's going to be about 30 to 35 pages in length. This week I put pictures in the book. I'm getting really close to having it done. I plan on publishing it on August 15th. And what I've decided is that for the first probably 3 weeks after I publish the book, I'll give it away free to anybody that's signed up for my e-newsletter list. So if you're a subscriber currently, you'll have access to get the book for free for about 3 weeks once it's published. If you're not a subscriber, you need to subscribe and you can get the book for free when it's available around August 15th. So after 3 weeks, I'll give the book away for free for 3 weeks, 3 to 4 weeks, because I want to get it out in the hands of people because I think people are going to like it. I want to encourage people to get it. And then after that, I'll sell it for probably $3 to $4 in that range. So I'd like to give a shout out to new subscribers to the newsletter: Chris Walton, Spencer Rosenthal, Simeon Baldwin, my Scamp technical advisor buddy in Port Townsend, and Gary Hoffman. Welcome to the newsletter, guys. And if you want to sign up for the newsletter and receive my ebook for free when it's available in August, you can go to hookedonwoodenboats.com/subscribe. Give me your first and last name and your email address, and you'll be good to go. So I am really excited about the book. It's coming out great. I'm having a lot of fun writing it. I'm having my graphic artist who did my Hooked on Wooden Boats banner for my website design the cover page, which is really going to be cool. It's going to have a picture of the canoe I built on it and have a lot of good information inside. And I'm learning a ton writing, and it's really fun. So I would encourage you to check that out when it's available. Also, if you want to see which pin nailer I'm using for my boat building, you can go to hookedonwoodenboats.com/pin nailer. That'll take you to Amazon. It's a Boss Stitch 23 gauge pin nailer, very handy tool. The pins are 23 1/1000ths of an inch in diameter, a ½ inch to 1 3/16 in length. Very, very, very cool tool. You can barely see them once they're driven in, about the size of a pin. Just a regular pin. And if you make a purchase here, actually, I get paid a little commission. I would appreciate that. Also wanted to mention again this week that you can get the Goujon Brothers 5th edition of their boat building book, the PDF version of it, free online. It's pretty cool. It's a $45 book. It's got a ton of information about different kinds of boat building and using West Systems epoxy. I would encourage you to go to hookedonwoodenboats.com/free book. That'll take you to the page where you can download the book for free, which I did about a week ago, and I'm loving it. So there's a freebie from Wooden Boat Dan at Hooked on Wooden Boats. We're coming up on episode 100 here in a couple of weeks, which is pretty exciting. And I've got some stuff planned, which I'm not going to reveal yet. I'm going to keep it a secret, but it's going to be fun, so you'll definitely want to check that out in a couple of weeks. Okay, we're going to move on to the interview with Marty Loken, who is in the process of retiring from his business, the Island Boatshop on Marrowstone Island. So let's roll the tape. Take it away, Marty. Let's have fun with it. Okay, it's July 20th, 2013. I'm sitting with Marty Loken on the beach in front of the Northwest Maritime Center at the second annual Pocket Yacht Palooza. Marty, welcome back to the podcast.
Hey, thank you. It's great to be back, and it's wonderful to have another Pocket Yacht Palooza almost under our belts.
Yeah. So I think you have the distinct honor now of being on the podcast 3 times. I don't think anybody else has.
Wow.
I've got some doubles, but no triples. So you're part of an elite. You're the beginning of an elite group.
Is there a prize?
No, there's no prize. You could take my canoe for a paddle later on.
Oh, okay. That's a deal.
So the Pocket Yacht. So give me just a brief history on the Palooza.
Well, the Pocket Yacht Palooza started last year. We spontaneously decided about 6 weeks before the event to gather as many interesting small craft designs together as possible and we held it in May, a dangerous time of the year. It was a one-day event, and we had a turnout of about 50 boats, which amazed us. So we scheduled it for July 2021 this year here at the Northwest Maritime Center. And as of this afternoon, I counted 75 boats sprinkled across the Maritime Center Plaza, on the beach, out at the float, and in Point Hudson Marina next door.
Wow, 50% increase in 1 year.
It's been really heartening to see the real explosion of interest in small craft, especially boats that can be used for beach camping cruises, whether rowing, sailing, or motoring. We have this year, for the first time, some power boats. Last year, just by happenstance, the Palooza was nothing but sailing and rowing boats, but we have an electric launch. We have a couple 19-foot bartender camp cruising boats. I brought my little 16-foot Paulsbo boat with a cabin for pocket cruising, and there are some others. So it's become, let's say, more democratic in its mix of sail power and rowing and paddling.
So now what are the rules again of the Palooza? I know it's a pretty strict organization.
Oh yeah, we are absolutely by the book. We just haven't found the book yet.
What's the slogan you use about no rules?
The Pocket Yacht Palooza is organized, if you can call it that, by the Port Townsend Pocket Yachters group. And we are very proud that we have no officers, no dues, no bylaws, no other forms of regulation or signs of organization. So the Palooza is free to participants. It's free to the public to enjoy, and the result is everybody's having a great time. There are no complications over money or who paid what. There are no forms to fill out. You just say you're coming or you're not coming, and you either show up with a boat or you don't.
Yeah, I love it. It's too bad more things in life aren't made that way, you know? We tend to complicate stuff.
I think the Palooza itself fits right in with the move toward simplicity in boat usage, boat ownership, boat maintenance, and the attractiveness of small craft compared to the complexities and costs of buying and maintaining and mooring and insuring a big boat.
Yeah. Well, it seems like smaller boats get used more for the most part.
Well, these sure do. This event is made up of daily drivers. Boats people really use all the time, and some of them were sailed here on their, or rowed here on their very own bottoms, and but we've had people trailering boats to the Palooza from as far away as Colorado.
Wow.
Northern California, all over Oregon, one boat from Idaho, 3 boats from British Columbia, and a lot of them, of course, from the Puget Sound area.
Yeah. So if you were to highlight 2 to 3 boats here today that are pretty interesting to you, what would you say? I
think seeing the very first Sam Devlin Lit'l Coot 18-foot Motorsailer was real interesting to me, because I was very interested in building one of those for a customer. I just couldn't find a customer who was ready to get their checkbook out to order up a Lit'l Coot. But this is the one that's at the show is the first one that's ever been built to Sam's design, and it represents a lot of the sort of attributes of the ideal pocket cruising sailboat.
Yeah.
It has ample cabin space, a little weather-tight wheelhouse, 4-stroke outboard power, and it's a very practical, functional little Motorsailer.
What length is that boat?
I think it's 18.
Yeah.
And so Lit'l Coot was a hit. I love seeing the Ian Uhtred designs here, Caledonia yawls, Ness yawls, and his other wonderful double-ended lapstrake sailing boats. They make great camp cruising boats.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The boat school, one of our co-sponsors, always shows up with a whole fleet of boats that have been built there. It's been nice to see, for the first time, some Pram design pocket cruising sailboats.
Pram design?
Well, like the Port Madison Pram is back this year, and some others that are maybe sort of frumpy looking by design to some eyes, but they make enormously practical, usable, functional boats with tremendous carrying capacity. And we also have the Scram Pram, speaking of prams, which Dennis McFadden brought down from Vancouver, BC. It's a totally eccentric sort of micro houseboat almost that sometimes surprises others with its sailing ability as it goes sailing past them.
Yeah,
it looks like a caboose with a sail or something, but it can perform quite well.
Yeah, right. And there's quite a few scamps here this year.
We've got a real scamp camp going. There are 5 completed scamps, including the first ever fiberglass production scamp, just purchased by its new owner, who brought it immediately to the Palooza from Gig Harbor, where it was built. And then 4 other completed wooden scamps, and 1 mostly finished scamp that's here in the Maritime Center Boatshop.
Yeah, right. That's one Simeon's building.
Simeon is building that one.
Yeah. So what are some other things about this year's Palooza that are different than last year? Some of the stuff you're doing, Marty?
Well, the big difference is we've turned it into a 2-day event. Saturday is for the public, and on Sunday, many or most all of the participating boats will be on the water, sailing and rowing together. Our plan is to cross Port Townsend Bay to the nice beach at Rat Island and have a picnic over there and trade boat rides. And the other difference this year is that we're offering some presentations for participants. Right now, while we're talking, there's a very interesting sort of group discussion going on the beach with boat owners comparing notes on different traditional sailing rigs, spritzels and lug rigs, and all of the other sort of common traditional small craft sailing rigs. So you've got boat owners talking about the advantages and some of the downsides of each different rig, and then freely swapping anecdotal information about how this works for them and that doesn't work. So I think the people participating in the sailing rig conversation are having a good time and learning a lot from each other.
Yeah.
And then this evening we'll have slide presentations from Dale McKinnon of Bellingham, who built her own rowing dory and put it on the Alaska State Ferry to Ketchikan, and then rowed home to Bellingham from Ketchikan by herself with her dory. And then after Dale, we'll have Kirk Gresham, a local Port Townsend sailor, talking about his trailer sailing adventures with Eider, a little Devlin sailboat, ranging from Southern California to the islands of northern British Columbia.
Okay. So do you have a boat here this year, Marty?
Well, we have 2 boats here, and I just bought another one. So we're trying to maintain our record of contributing to the Palooza by buying at least.
I remember your wife bought one last year.
She bought one last year, and she almost bought this one, but I beat her to it. It's a competition.
What did you buy?
That little 12-foot Whitehall project boat that was sitting in the bed of an old Chevy pickup.
I didn't see that one.
It was a late arrival.
Really?
He didn't quite get it backed all the way into the Palooza before I got my checkbook out.
Really?
But sweet little boat, built years ago at the boat school, needing a refinish, but it was just irresistible. It was such a sweet little Whitehall design, plumb stem, the beautiful transom pattern, and irresistible. I'll refinish it and probably end up reselling it. But
wow, very
cool.
cool.
I'm just a complete addict.
You're hopeless, Marty.
Unrepentant.
You're hooked on wooden boats.
Hooked on wooden boats. But the boats we have here at the Palooza are a 16-foot Paulsbo boat that I built a cabin on.
Is that this boat right out here?
No, it's the one out at the float.
Oh, okay.
Its name is Salty.
Okay.
And we'll use it for sort of a micro pocket cruiser. Taking
That's a
it
power
up.
boat.
Well, it has a little 8-horse outboard and a well.
Okay.
And we'll be camp cruising up toward the north end of Vancouver Island in August with it.
Fun.
And then we brought Scud, which is a 16-foot double-ended lapstrake sailboat modeled after a 100-year-old Danish fishing boat design. And Scud was built in 1994 by the late George Calkins, one of my very good friends.
Right.
In the boat business.
Did live near you. His widow is still there?
Yeah, Wilma is living in a retirement center in Port Townsend now, but George has been gone for about 3 years, and we really wanted to make sure the last boat he built, this double-ended sailboat, was preserved into perpetuity, so we were able to wrestle it away from a previous owner.
So there's a rumor out there, Marty, that you're trying to retire and not being very successful. What's the scoop on that?
Well, everyone tells me, and I know it's true, that I'll be busier in my so-called retirement than I've ever been theoretically working. But I'm working on what I keep telling myself is the last customer restoration project right now, which should be finished before the end of this year. And at that point, I have pledged to no longer work on boats by the hour for customers, and to simplify my life even more by just dragging home rotten boats, rebuilding them and reselling them one at a time as the geezer down the road who just can't stop, rather than as a formal business with just the old guy, who keeps building boats and putting them out on his front yard with a for sale sign.
Who is that guy?
Who is that guy?
Why won't he stop doing that?
Isn't there some sort of regulation about that?
Yeah, really, that shouldn't be legal. Yeah. So have you been getting out on the water yourself lately?
Well, we haven't been out as much as we'd like to, because I keep working on boats instead of using them as much as we'd really want to.
Yeah.
But that's part of the scheme or goal, hope for retirement, is to spend more time boating and less time working on them.
Yeah, right.
And so if we can pull it off, that'll be fantastic, and we'll be out in small boats more and more. I think the key for us and for a lot of people is to downsize your boating universe to a point where you can actually afford to do it and where you don't have to pay for moorage or storage or insurance or high maintenance costs for your boat or your boats, and where you can have boats that you can trailer anywhere and use at a moment's notice. We're trailering to the north part of Vancouver Island next month, and it would take me I'd have to have a month off to start out from here in Port Townsend and sail a small boat up to the north end of Vancouver Island and back, and that would be fun. But we don't all have a month to spare, so we can be up there the next day with a boat on a trailer, launch it in a quiet cove, and be out in the middle of some great cruising country, among orcas and great fishing and everything else within a day or two.
That's awesome. That is really cool.
Yeah.
So for people listening, Marty, that want more information about the Palooza or the Pocket Yachters at Port Townsend, what should they do?
People should look at the Pocket Yachters website, which is www.pocketyachters.com, and they can see photos of this 2013 Pocket Yacht Palooza, which will be posted by Monday, and they can join the conversation about small boats by going through a simple registration process on our Port Townsend Small Boats Yahoo forum. There's a link to the forum on the Pocket Yachters website. One click and you're onto the forum. Quickly register, and you are then officially a member of this completely disorganized group. The forum is really the only mechanism needed for membership.
Okay.
And it's free like everything else.
Yeah, very cool. And you've also got boats for sale on the website.
Yes, it's a great place to shop for rowing and sailing boats and small, interesting, fuel-efficient power boats. We try to maintain a nice little shopping list of some of the best small craft that are available in the Northwest.
Okay, very cool.
So they just have to go to the Pocket Yachters website and take a look under boats for sale.
Okay, very good. So I appreciate your time today, Marty. Anything else you'd like to add?
No, except that the 2014 Pocket Yacht Palooza will be July 19 and 20 of next year. Same place at the Northwest Maritime Center in Port Townsend. And we'll look for you there.
Okay, very good. Well, thanks for your time, Marty. Have a good afternoon.
Thank you very much.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Marty, for taking the time to do the interview. It's always fun to talk about the Pocket Yachters and the Palooza. And I love the fact that there's no rules or regulations, no dues, no officers. I just think that's hilarious. And it's really a blast. I mean, this year's Palooza was probably 50% more boats than last year, and everybody had a great time. I wish I could have stayed for both days, but I had to come back after day one. So anyway, thanks for all your hard work on that, Marty, and I have now officially joined the Port Townsend Pocket Yachters Palooza, which is pretty fun. And if you're interested in doing that, you can go to pocketyachters.com. Now that I've said that, I got to verify that. Hold on just a second. That is correct. It is pocketyachters.com, pocketyachters.com. If you go there, there's some instructions on how you can sign up to be a pocket yachter, and there's a calendar there and a lot of fun stuff, so I'd encourage you to check it out. Okay, if you'd like to connect with me, you can do so by email, dan@hookedonwoodenboats.com. You can subscribe to the e-newsletter, which is monthly, hookedonwoodenboats.com/subscribe. You can leave comments on my website on the blog posts that I make weekly, which if you're listening to the podcast, I'd encourage you to also go to the website if you're not there. Check out the pictures and the text information I write each week about the podcast. You can find me on Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, and YouTube if you look for Wooden Boat Dan there. I've got about 6 videos on YouTube now, which is really fun. And if you want to leave a voicemail for me, give me feedback about the show, I'd really love that. Go to hookedonwoodenboats.com/voicemail and you can leave up to a 90-second message. If you enjoy the podcast and would like to help support it, you can go to my homepage and click on one of the banners on the right-hand side, Amazon, Jamestown Distributors, West Marine. I'm going to be adding a couple things there. And actually, I did just add Russell Brown's book, which I'm trying to remember the name of it here. Hang on a second. Okay, yes, it's called Epoxy Basics by Russell Brown. It's an ebook. And if you purchase that through my website, I get paid a small commission. It's a great book about using epoxy and making fillets and all that cool stuff. And Russell's a pro at doing all that, so I would encourage you to check it out. Also, if you enjoy the podcast, please go to iTunes and leave me a 5-star review. That would be awesome. Go to the iTunes store, into the podcast section, search for Hooked on Wooden Boats, and you're home free. You can also subscribe to the podcast there so you get notified automatically each week as a new episode is published. Well, get in the wooden boat game if you're not in, folks. It's a lot of fun to get out on wooden boats and to build them and use them and talk about them and varnish them and put screws in them and repair them and show them off. So check it out. Let's have some fun. Thanks for tuning in this week. Wooden Boat Dan over and out. Keep the bright side up and the barnacled side down. God bless.